I never believed in ghosts. Even as a kid, I laughed at the idea of restless spirits, thinking it was all just stories told to scare people. But that night, standing in the heart of Blackwood Cemetery, surrounded by fog and tombstones, I realized some stories are real. And some stories can kill. It all started when my friend Dave dared me to spend one night at Blackwood Cemetery, the oldest and most haunted place in the state. At first, I shrugged it off, thinking it was just a stupid prank. But after a few drinks and his endless taunting, I finally agreed. I mean, it was just a cemetery, right? What could happen? I arrived at the cemetery just before midnight. The iron gates creaked open, as if they hadn't been touched in years. As I stepped inside, the world outside seemed to disappear. The air grew cold, and a thick mist rolled over the ground. Rows of ancient tombstones stretched into the darkness, each one weathered and cracked with age. The moon hung low, casting eerie shadows across the graves. I set up a small camp by a large oak tree in the center of the cemetery, determined to prove Dave wrong. The only rule was simple: I had to stay until dawn. But as the night dragged on, something started to feel off. At first, it was subtle, a faint whisper in the wind, a shadow moving in the corner of my eyes. I chalked it up to nerves. After all, cemeteries are supposed to be creepy. But then, the whispers grew louder, more distinct. I stood up, shining my flashlight across the graves, trying to convince myself that I was imagining things. But the beam of light flickered, and in the distance, I saw it, something moving between the tombstones. A figure, no, several figures, drifting in and out of the fog. "Who's there?" I called out, but my voice sounded small, swallowed by the night. No answer, just more whispers, more shadows. I told myself it was just the wind, or maybe other people trying to scare me. But the figures grew closer, and the air became thick, almost suffocating. The whispers turned to voices, angry, mournful voices, like they were trying to tell me something, trying to warn me. Then I saw it, a gravestone with my name on it. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. That gravestone wasn't there before. How was this possible? I slowly approached it, my hands trembling as I traced the letters carved into the stone. My name, the date of my death was tonight. Before I could process what was happening, the ground beneath me shifted. The earth trembled as the graves began to open. I stumbled back, my flashlight shaking wildly as I watched skeletal hands reach up from the dirt, pulling themselves out of their resting places. Panicked, I turned to run, but the cemetery twisted around me, like the very ground was alive, shifting and trapping me. The gates were nowhere to be seen. I was trapped. I turned slowly, my breath catching in my throat. Standing there, just inches away, was a figure unlike anything I had even seen. A woman, her face pale and decayed. Her eyes hollow black pits, stood draped in a tattered, blood-stained dress. She smiled, her mouth stretching far too wide, and whispered again, "Stay with us forever." I screamed and ran, but no matter how fast I moved, the whispers followed, the shadows closing in around me. The air grew colder, and my vision blurred. I could feel them, hundreds of eyes watching me, waiting, whispering. Suddenly, I tripped over something, another gravestone. This one, too, had my name on it. But the death date had changed. It read, yesterday. The shadows swirled around me, pulling me down into the cold, wet earth. I struggled, but their grip was too strong. The voices grew louder, more insistent, echoing in my mind, and then, darkness.